Well, good morning. Welcome to another episode of Papa's Workshop. These are for Adam, Brady, Luke, and Brenna. But before we get started today, of course, we got to check in with my assistant, who is eagerly waiting right there. She is. The ultimate guard dog. Yes, you are. You're just so fierce. You might just lick somebody to death. Yes, I know. You want your belly rubbed? Want your belly rubbed? No? All right, let's get to work. Well, the next thing we're going to do on our chest here is the frame that goes underneath. This is what the whole chest will sit on, and then the legs are attached underneath of that. So what we have to do is miter. We made this front piece earlier. Remember, we did that first, remember? So that we could, since we used the router bit on the outside, that determined where this break point was on the outside. And then after we finished it, we knew where the inside was. We made the templates for the chest based on this. But we couldn't cut it to length until the case was together. So we need to know just where the case ends to do the miters. And then we've got the side pieces will have to be mitered as well to get us that frame. And we want the same overhang on the molding. And once that is done, then we can fit this back piece to make a rectangle that this whole thing can sit on. So what I'm going to do is turn the chest upside down, and remember we put dowel holes in so we could locate this front molding, the front profile here at the correct position on our molding. So we'll turn it upside down and then mark where the corners, when it's upside down, the corners will be here. So we know exactly where to put our mortise or our miters. All right, chest's upside down, and so this molding has just got to fit right like this. These dowels are a little undersized so that they'll easy to take back out. But okay, so we see we've got this nice profile here. So what we want to do is mark where that corner is. Right there where that corner is, right like that. So we do that on the table saw, and we'll go from there. All right. I got all the miters cut, but I left it a little bit long on the cross piece, and I'm going to fine tune the miter with my shooting board here. So it's just a matter of on the end here. There, that makes for a really smooth cut. So I'll get those fit, and then we're going to put in floating tendons. Well, let me get this finished first. All right, we got the miters all fitted. I had to take on the top of the case, which is actually the bottom of the case, right? Because it's upside down. I'd take my joiner plane and plane down some of the high spots so that these pieces would sit flush and no real gap in there. And then I did the miters, and they're all fit. I still have to cut the side ones to length, but I'm going to wait till after I get the, I'm going to put in floating tendons. See how I've got it drawn out there? We're going to put 2 1/4 inch rather than 1 1/2 inch one in the middle. The rule of thumb for tendons, or in this case floating tendons, which I'm going to use this stock here, and I'm going to put this mortise in both pieces, and then put this piece loose in there, cut to length, and that's called a floating tendon. The typical rule of thumb is that you divide it into 3 equal spaces. So this is 1.5 inches, so you would have a 1/2 inch tendon and then a 1/2 inch on either side. Well, I'm going to separate it out for 2 reasons. One, that it gives me more glue surface, and it gives me something that's at both sides of the, to keep it from turning. And I already have this made. That's it's a hard maple piece, and then it's going to be 1 inch deep, so it'll miss the curve. And so we'll do that on the router. I've got a jig for doing that. So that is next. Then once we get those all fit, then we can, that'll hold at the end more securely, so I can mark where the end of the side's going to go. And those will be cut off straight, so that'll be easy. And then we'll, once that's done, then we can cut this. We're going to do mortise and tendon on this back piece that's going to go between the 2 sides in the back, and we'll probably we could maybe do the same thing we did the front, but I think I've got enough material I can do a big tendon in the back. So, but that's after we get this other part straightened out. All right, here's my setup for doing those the mortises. I've got this jig that holds it in, and then I can move the router this way, and this stop is adjustable, and that goes in and out. So I'm going to do all of them first with the one mortise on the bottom side. Do all of them. Then I'm going to shift it over and then repeat the whole thing again for the second one. So, all right, there's it's all fitted, and we're looking at it. The case is upside down, but you get the idea. So there are the miters, and this is what the joint apart. So we got the 2 floating tendons and the 2 holes there. So that's pretty much ready to be glued up, except we need to do something in the back. So I've marked that's the end of the case. So I got to cut these off to length, and then we have to fit this this back piece, and that's the length, 31 3/16 plus the tendons. So I'll just go with the standard 1/2 inch tendons on the back, centered. And we get those mortises in on the sides, tendons on the back, and then we'll be ready to glue it up. I got the tendons cut and fitted, so they go in like so. That's a little loose, but I needed that to assemble it. But you notice I don't have it. I've tried to keep away from getting too close to the end. I could have done a haunched tendon, which means it comes out at an angle on this one side to strengthen that. But this shouldn't take any abuse in that direction, so we're good. So we're ready to glue up. I glued this one joint. It's the case of too many moving pieces, so I went ahead and did this one. And I wanted to mention too the tendons, the floating tendons. You want the grain of the wood going this way, not this way, because it'll break. It'll break this way, but not the other way. So So what we need to do is glue this, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue it up on top of the case, and I put some packing tape at the joints so that any squeeze out isn't going to glue it to the case. And what I'm going to use the miters are a hard thing to clamp, and what I'm going to use are these little guys here with the rubber pad underneath of them, and they're going to go. You clamp this on. Well, better to put it together first. See, I've got this one clamped on already, and so we'll just fit that in there like so. And then clamp this down with the rubber underneath so that it doesn't damage the wood and doesn't slip. So now we've got these 2 points. Now hopefully you can see that. There's these 2 circles is what I'm going to be able to clamp on. So you can see the joint's not quite tight, and this will just pull it right tight. So that's what we use in the corner, and then we use one long clamp to go across the back. So that's how that's done, and then we have to let that dry. So we can go ahead and start with the bracket feet after I glue this up. All right, well, here's the case sitting on the frame. See, we got just got a little bit of cleanup to do here and there. That's the way it's going to look, and I still have to clean up some of those joints on the case, but the fit looks pretty good, and it's repeatable with the dowel pins, which I'll glue into the frame later. Right now I need the frame to sit flat, so we're going to take this apart and we'll start working on the bracket feet. Marked the locations of the slots, so I will put a screw in the center of that, or a screw, a pilot hole for the screw. But one problem, there's my marks for the front ones right there. But this one in the center just missed. I don't know if you can see that little nick right there. That's where the screw is right on the seam. So, I talked about maybe putting a glue in it, making this wider. But anyway, I got to move that center screw. I either got to move it 1/4 inch toward the front, or add a piece and go in the back. And see, it's already pretty close to the edge. You got the 1/8 inch bead, so anyway, I got to figure something out for that. All right, I moved that hole a little closer to the front, and I went ahead and put a little patch in there. It's not going to show. I mean, it's going to be underneath the bottom drawer, so nobody really ever see it, but I filled it anyway. Because I know it's there. Anyway, that's it for this session. We'll start with the bracket feet next.